Now let's discuss about the different terminology. Now the people who said that they are from the ABAP background, they are even not clear with the functional or technical, they might be finding it difficult now. They might be finding it difficult now to identify that what are the different terminologies has been used. So let me clarify the quick terminologies on SAP Transportation Management. The first one comes is the shipper, okay? And shipper is also called as a consignor. Shipper is also called as a consignor. Can anyone tell me that who is a shipper? Can anyone tell me who is a shipper? On the chat window, but obviously on the chat window. Who would be a shipper? Can I say I am manufacturing it, or I'm using it to shipper or consigner? Okay, so I will try to draw a diagram here, and I will try to explain all the things over the diagram here. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos. Something that shipper is vendor, supplier, freight forwarder, who ships the product to customer. Rajan said, Rajan has a very close and right definition. So in transportation world, we will be using a terminology, and I will draw a straight away picture here. Consignor. And then the second terminology is consignee. This consignor is also called as a shipper. Now this shipper can be my manufacturing plant. Okay, let's say if I am a ABC Juice Limited, okay, I am a ABC Juice Limited, and I am sending my materials from my manufacturing plant to my customer. Okay, from my manufacturing plant to my customer. So who I am a shipper. I am shipping the product. So basically from where you are shipping the product is your shipper. So let's say I am putting this solution, ABC Juice Limited. So ABC Juice Limited, this particular manufacturing plant become a consignor, or would be called as a shipper because it is shipping the products. And who is a consignee in this case? The consignee would be my customer. Consignee would be my customer. Okay. Now, in this scenario, can you tell me that is there any case that my shipper can be my vendor? Okay, shipper can the shipper can be the vendor? Let me put another scenario here. This is my supplier. He's supplying raw materials to me. Raw materials. And then from here, he is supplying the finished goods. In this case, who is my consignor and who is my consignee? I'm receiving a materials from the supplier. Who is my consignor and who is my consignee? Answers of the chat window. Now, what will happen that, many cases, the inbound part, when we will also talk about SAP TM, inbound is not that prominent. Okay. Outbound is more prominent. Outbound comes with the more transportation planning than the inbound ones. There is a specific reason why it happens. Because what happens, the inbound ones, it depends on your contract with your supplier. Most of the places, the contract would be that supplier is responsible. You would be adding some freight to it, but he's responsible to manage the freights, to manage the transportation and deliver it to your plant, right? So that's why that leg in the transportation planning would not be coming. But if I say, that your freight charges, boss, are a lot, I can manage on my own. I can manage my own service provider who can come and pick the products from your premise and then deliver it to me. So I need to manage it, right? When I need to manage it, my supplier become here, my supplier would become consignor. What will supplier become? Supplier will become consignor. Yes, plant is consigning. Very right. So this will become a consignor, or this will become a shipper now. And what will happen in this scenario to this one? This will become my consignee. You're just receiving it. Can my supplier can be a consignee? Is there can be any scenario where my supplier would be a consignee? Can anyone tell me, is there can be any scenario where my supplier can be a consignee? Yes, supplier can also be consignee. How the supplier can be consignee? Now let's say if it is a return scenario. Okay, supplier send it to you, you said, okay, boss, I'm sending it back to you. This is not the product we required it. I'm sending it back. If it is a return scenario. In return scenario, what will happen? Again, you will become a shipper and your supplier here will become a consignee. When I started learning it, I started learning it for the outbound logistics 10, 12 years ago. I always said, why they have very much of confusing terminology, consigner, consignee. Why don't they use it? Okay, plant, vendor. Because when you talk about the transportations and when you will see from the outside, not you, when you will see from the LSP side, logistics service provider side, then you will come to know that for logistics service provider, it does not mean it's a manufacturing plant. It does not mean that from here where he's picking, he should know that here I need to pick, that picking location is my consigner, and here I need to drop, that's my consignee. Now that can be a manufacturing plant, that can be a vendor, that can be a supplier, that can be a customer. The same way in my return scenario from here, my customer can be my consigner, right? My customer can be my consigner. He's sending it, then I will become consignor. So consigner, consignee, customer, supplier, vendor, shipper. I hope you would be clear, right? So I have explained you now the basic. Now I will go a little bit more things I will talk about. There are the more terminologies are there which I have written in my mind map, apart from the consignee, apart from the consigner, right? There would be, let's talk about the two things first, then I will introduce the third one. There would be the freight provider and there would be the carrier. Okay, there would be the freight provider and there would be the carrier. Now let's try to understand who would be the freight provider. Okay, freight provider, freight settler, and one more terminology is used as the freight broker. Okay, different countries, different regions, different terminologies can be used. So you need to be clear. Freight provider, freight broker can be another terminology. And then we'll be talking about here is the carrier. Now, I'm focusing on this. This is my consigner. This is consigning this scenario. In this scenario, my truck is going like this, right? Now, to whom this truck belongs to? This truck would be not belonging to us. There are a lot of companies, they will not be owning the transportation. So when you will become a bigger company, you will try to understand that you need to service the thousands of the customers in different places. So you cannot be ending up managing your own transportation at all the places. Then what will happen that, you know, that rather than focusing on producing a product and selling it, you will become only a company who's managing the transportation, because transportation would be that heavy load on you, right? So you alone would not be able to do it. In each country, in each region, you would be putting your own resources, your own trucks, your own ships. You would not be able to do it, right? And maybe you might not be having that much of volume to handle it. Your customer required 4 cases, 10 cases. They don't require a full truckload. Okay, you want to send the product to overseas, you want to send 8 pallets in a container, 20 pallets goes. So you need to require another service providers who would be basically carrying your product. So this truck who is carrying from here would be managed by a carrier. This is called carrier. Carrier would be the company who would be owning the transport. Okay, who would be owning a transports. They would be having their own trucks. They would be having their own containers. They would be managing the transport. They would be owning. So that would be the carrier. So the person who is bringing a truck to your premise, who is driving it and dropping it, would be the carrier. Okay. Now it's not necessary that you would be having a contact with the carrier. You would not be having a contract with the carrier. The contract you might be having, and I will talking about here why this kind of scenario will come into the picture. You would be having contract. Your contract would be with the freight broker or freight provider. And freight provider would be having a contract with the carrier. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos. Okay. Now, who is the freight provider? The good question comes. Who is the freight provider? The freight provider or the freight broker. When you talk about the carriers also there would be multiple. They are the expert carriers who basically do the air shipments. You know, all the airlines, right? They are the carriers. They also do the cargo. They also take the shipments apart from the passengers. They also take the shipment, and they also have specific cargo planes, right? So they all are carriers. Okay, they would be carrying a stuff from one place to another place, right? Same way in the different regions, there are the multiple carrier companies who is having a trucks, 100 trucks, 200 trucks in a particular region, and then they operate the trucks to provide the transportation service. One region, there can be one company, one city can have one major company, another region, another state can have another 10 companies providing 10 different rates. So there can be thousands of carriers in your premise within a single country who are providing a different kind of services on different terms and different rates, right? Now, being a shipper, I am producing it and I want to send it. I don't want to go into jump into that big ocean of carriers to identify that, okay, which carrier, which route would be suitable, whether the services would be good or not. I would be depending on some freight providers. I would be contacting the freight providers and I would be have a contract with them. Boss, I want to manage these shipments. You provide me the services. And freight provider will get services from the carrier and they will provide. Now, there would be a very thin line between the freight provider, carrier, and the third terminology, which I'm going to introduce, is LSP, logistics service provider. You should try to focus, okay? In different regions, the terminologies can be interchanged with each other. So freight provider in general, if you go with the definition mentioned in the books, in general, they don't have their own transports. What they do, they are the companies who's exchanging the informations. They more depends, they will take the information, they will bring a contracts with you, they will take information, they will manage all the carriers. Okay, will be information, their freight rules. So they would be coming in with the list of the freights which they provide with the optimum carriers they are using it, and with that you would be identifying, okay, I'm selecting this freight forwarder or freight provider. It's more than provider, it's called freight forwarder. Freight forwarder is the more terminology which is used. Freight provider is also used. Freight provider, freight forwarder, freight broker, multiple terminologies are used. Okay, you should not be confused when you're learning TM. So why I am focusing on these terminologies, because what I have seen, I have done the TM implementation. I have also been part of the OTM implementation, Oracle Transport Management. I see the transport consultant coming up, and when the business start about talking about consignor, consignee, freight provider, these terminologies, they get confused. They don't know the basics itself, right? Then how you would be able to discuss with the business, right? So you need to know these basics terminology clear. Then you would be able to discuss, consult anything. They talk about freight, you need freight order, but yeah, let's get the basics clarified first. Now, the freight forwarder. So freight forwarder would be a company who would be managing multiple carriers. By the definition, they don't own they don't own the transport, but in some region, some part of the transport also they can own. There's no hard line to it. It's just a terminology which is mentioned.